Hey, New Walk Church, welcome to Preaching Pros. I'm Rob Neves, and today we're going to walk you through 12 essential skills that you're going to need when preparing a sermon from Wayne McDill, and it's going to be a great time, but I want to walk you through these steps. I know that you're new to preaching, or maybe you are somewhat seasoned, but didn't really have a structure. How do I structure my sermon? I mean, we all love to study the Bible, and it would be great if I could just bring all my study notes, give it to the congregation and say, hey, read it and you're going to be blessed. But that's not the way preaching works. The way that preaching works is that we have to organize our thoughts. So sure, we have to take the time to study, know what we're talking about, but then we have to structure it in a way that people will be able to take it home and understand it. And that's where Wayne McDill takes us through these 12 steps. Now, don't be overwhelmed or don't feel overwhelmed. Really, they fall into three buckets, and we're going to dive into it right now. So here is what we're talking about. Three buckets. The first bucket is we want to see the text, right? We want to learn the text. That's what we mean by that. We want to learn it well. I know in my own experience, sometimes what I do is that I read it and reread it and reread it. Then I have maybe a Bible app read it to me a couple of times, maybe even different translations so that I can soak it in and know it really well. So we want to see the text. Then we want to build the sermon, right? This is going to be the point where after we've read it, we feel like we know it, we have a good understanding of it, then we start building our sermon. We don't want to do it the other way around. And the third step is going to be, we want to make it stick with the people. The first one is see the text. So this is where you want to diagram the structure of the passage. So you want to grab a passage, you want to diagram that structure, and you want to identify the parts of the passage. How is the author organizing his ideas? What's the flow of thought? So what I do is I actually open up a word processor and I start looking and dividing and putting words into clauses and putting things together that kind of make sense to me. So you want to diagram the structure of the text. I recommend that for sure. Number two, you want to note the details in the text. So you're often going to find certain verbs, certain repeated words, maybe some connective phrases. So you want to take note of that, maybe highlight those and put them aside and keep them in your memory as you're developing and trying to find out what the author is trying to say here. Number three is that you want to ask research questions. What are these research questions? Well, the research questions are, remember in grade school, who, what, where, when, why, and how. That's what you want to do. Who's speaking? Why are they speaking? What's the historical context? What problem is being addressed here, right? So you want to start asking those research questions and try to really exhaust the questions that you ask, right? Keep on asking more questions. Even ask yourself, what questions should I be asking that I'm not asking right now, right? So dig deep there. Then on number four, you want to name the text idea. Finally, I would say you want to get to a phrase where you say, well, this is the main idea of this passage. And what I do sometimes is I'll even go as far as saying, well, let me just get that one word that really encapsulates that the text idea. So that's the first thing. You want to see the text. That's the first bucket. What's the second bucket? The second bucket is where we develop the sermon, where we put the structure. Now we have all the pieces. So if you were in construction, you would imagine I've got all these pieces of wood. I've got all the sheetrock. I've got all the materials here, but now I've got to put them together. And this is your second bucket. The first thing you want to do is that you want to start bridging the gaps between then and now. So what did it mean then? What did that passage mean then? And what does it mean for us now in our context today? Then you want to start by writing the sermon divisions. The sermon divisions are going to be the points to the main point that you're trying to make. They are your supporting points. This is the main point, and this is why I believe that this is truth, or this is what I believe the Word of God says. So you want to create those points. Then you want to balance your persuasive tools. And what we mean by that is simply every sermon is going to need four elements, which is explanation, they're going to need illustration, they're going to need argumentation, and it's going to need application. Those are the 4 points, right? Let's go over those real quickly and show you what I mean exactly. So as you're developing your points, you're going to say point 1, point 2, point 3, right? So you're going to have your main sermon division. That's your point. And then you're going to set up your explanation. What do I mean by that point, right? So I want to extract the juice. Don't just assume that people know what you mean by your main point. I think that's a mistake we make sometimes, that we make our point and we think, oh, everybody just understands it. No, explain it, go a little further. And as you're explaining it, then illustrate it. Find something from real life that can illustrate that point that you're trying to make. Then from there, you want to argue. You want to say why this matters, why this point is essential, why does it make sense in the grand scheme of things. And finally, you want to teach people, hey, this is how we apply this point. So you want to go point 1, point 2, point 3, and each of them has an explanation. Each of them has an illustration. They have an argumentation and they have an application. And don't worry, we will go over every single one of these points later on in more detail. But for right now, I just want to give you a big picture of it all. The last one is that you want to explore natural analogies. So you want to connect it to everyday life, right? There are storms in life that we go through. There's growth, whether it's career growth, whether it's professional, whether it's spiritual growth, whether it's relational growth. Connect it, right? Get those natural analogies out of the text, right? And you want to bring that out as you're explaining your text. So those are the things you want to bring out as you're building the sermon. Now, here's what you really want to do. You want to make those sermons stick, right? You don't want to just make this, hey, it's a great sermon, a lot of information and not a lot of application, or not a way to help you memorize it. And think about this, or people don't have to memorize your sermon. That would be incredible if they could do that. But think about it. How many sermons have you ever heard in your life? I did some math in my own journey. I grew up in church and I'm close to 50 years old at this point. And I've heard maybe about 2,500 sermons in my lifetime already. And ask me how many of them I remember. Very little. Hopefully they have impacted my life somehow because I am here. But as far as remembering the sermon, we don't want to make people lose the sermon. So we want to connect it. We want to make it stick. And how do we do that? Well, here's how we do it. We tell stories. Right? We tell stories, and you'll find that a lot of people will remember your story and maybe not so much your sermon, but they might remember the application to that story that you share. So to make it stick, you want to just share some stories. Jesus did this all the time. And in your own life, I think when appropriate, go ahead and share some stories that may be relevant to what you're speaking. Be a little vulnerable because I think it helps people connect better. So tell stories, paint those pictures for them, use real life illustrations. And the second thing is that you want to touch the human experience. Where does this meet real life, right? My sermon, where does it meet on marriage or anxiety or finances or purpose? You want to make sure that you're touching the human experience. Number 3, you want to aim for a faith response. You want to aim for a faith response. Now, this is key here. So many of us, when we start preaching, you should do this or you must do that. And all people are hearing is you should. And there's nothing technically wrong with that. However, this is not about what they should. This is about what God has already done. He's the hero, right? So instead of saying you should, and it becoming a lecture to everyone, start showing them about what God can do, about what He is capable of. So put it on God. Start showing and make your points about God and what He can do. You see, it will transform the way you preach. It will also transform the way your message is received by the people you preach to. And last You want to prepare for your delivery. This is where you literally preach the sermon to yourself. One of the best preachers that I know, communicators, and right now, I knew him when he wasn't an international speaker, but now he is an international speaker. But he had a room in his house where he had back then a tape recorder and a microphone. And I asked him, what is this about? Why do you have this little recording kind of studio in this closet? And he says, well, that's where I practice my sermons. So that's what you need to do. And he used to listen to them back, and that's the way he practiced it all the time. He'd listen to himself preaching, and he knew where to edit, what to say, what not to say. And really, preaching a lot of times is about a lot of editing. Everything you study, you can't bring. I know you want to bring it, but the reality is that you can't, and maybe you shouldn't, because you will overwhelm your listeners, and you will lose them. That's just the reality. So practice, refine, shorten. Speak in your voice and in your tone. Don't try to be someone else. Just be who you are. As long as you're prepared and you bring a good, solid message in who you are and confident on who God has called you to be, go ahead and preach it. No worries. Check your posture, your tone, how you communicate, what you communicate. And this is the moment to just polish and iron out all those last little details. So these are the 12 steps that Wayne McDill shares with us in those 3 buckets. In future videos, what I'll do is that I'll go ahead and expand on each and every one of them. But thank you so much for watching. I hope that this has been helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.